I would like for you right now to imagine for a moment 2 weeks after a layoff, a single mom, stripped of her title and stripped of her team, holding a baby, and two thoughts rushing through her mind. Who am I now? And how am I going to survive this? I want to welcome everyone here today. My name is Aida Rivas. As indicated earlier, I'm an executive coach and former tech leader in Silicon Valley. And that mom was me a couple of decades ago. And today, what I want to do is share with you a 5-tool backpack that enabled me to answer those questions, as well as help me navigate and regain my strength, my confidence, and my future. So today we're going to start with how we defined change. And then I'm going to share with you a simple leadership framework that you can integrate into your daily practices. Then I'm going to cover real workplace applications of the tools. And notice how small shifts can have tremendous impact in deepening your clarity, your connection, and your confidence. You will leave here today able to lead through any transition, not just ideas and theory. So change is an external event or situation that happens to us. Transition is a psychological process in response to that change. And it's not just one emotion, it's a mix of emotions. If the change was planned, we may be excited about the change, how we're going to show up in the new location, but we may still be missing what we're leaving behind, our routine, our environment. When leaders actually acknowledge the emotional journey of their teams, even within themselves, that starts creating belonging. Otherwise, team members feel unseen. And it really extends the transition for those team members into the new beginning. Transition sometimes is looked at as if it's something like out with the old, in with the new. But in reality, it's not like that. In reality, there's this messy middle where we are actually confused. We don't know who we are. We knew who we were based on the team that we connected, the people we connected with, the title we had, the routine, the structure. But now we're in this middle part. We can't even figure out how we're going to show up in the next whatever. We don't even know anymore what we need to be focused on. Our identity is shaken. In the new beginning, that's when we actually have gained that insight. We know more about what we want to show up. We have more clarity. We're establishing more relationships, new routines. But it doesn't mean that when you get to the other end, that you don't look back, that you still don't have emotions about what you left behind. Micro-transitions. I really value micro-transitions because micro-transitions happen every day. And it is these small moments where we're able to gain and strengthen our inner self. Start acknowledging or noticing that we could actually navigate or deal with uncertainty to some level. It is these moments that we actually are building muscles, the same muscles we have to use when, for example, we miss a connection at the airport and we have to figure out how to reroute to the new location. We ask for help. We have to call people that are impacted by that change. And then after that's over, we think back and say, if this were to happen again, what could I do differently? Those same muscles are the same muscles that help you go through the transition of a layoff, of a relocation, of a divorce, whatever that may be. So it is those small moments, though there may be small shifts, that actually create confidence in us to be able to face the next change. Belonging. Psychological safety is the foundation of belonging. It is a predictor of team success, of individual success, more than goals or talent or structure. When people feel they belong, when team members feel they belong, it actually accelerates execution, innovation. Belonging is actually the thing that helps us increase, accelerate our transition to the new beginning. Now, I'm going to share a little bit of my life of transitions, a glimpse of it. And I want you to notice where micro transitions, where belonging show up. So I was born in Honduras, Central America. And my very first transition was when my parents moved us from Honduras, Central America to California, Hollywood, California. We didn't know how to speak English. So like any immigrant, you're trying to figure it out. I was 6 years old. And we lived in a neighborhood which I consider fortunate because there were a few other families there who were also immigrants from different parts of the world. They also didn't speak English. So the children learned to play together, even though we didn't speak English. We learned to play together. We learned to have fun. Our parents had a different challenge, but we as kids learned to do that. I learned to become a very observant individual in classrooms because I wanted to figure out what are they expecting of me? What am I supposed to do when they talk about recess? And it is at that time, those muscles for adapting were beginning to form. So I felt safe. I had a neighborhood where I can play. I liked it. I liked my routine. But by third grade, my parents moved us to New Orleans. At that time, I really had, if you're going to talk about the messy middle, now that I know about the messy middle, that was my messy middle. I couldn't let go of what I was longing for in Hollywood, California. My neighborhood, my school, the routine I was used to. And during that time, I didn't know how to show up in my new environment. And so I actually became pretty isolated, a loner. Then we moved, when I was in 9th grade, we moved to Detroit, Michigan. Something was beginning to change inside me because I actually reflected back and I thought about my experience in New Orleans. And I didn't want it to repeat the same. I didn't want to be a loner. And so I started figuring out what did I need to do to adapt to this new situation. And I started joining clubs. I joined the high school band. I didn't know how to play an instrument, but I was certainly going to work hard to learn how to play the clarinet. And I did. By junior year, we ended up marching in Washington, D.C. for President Carter's inauguration parade. And I was very proud playing my clarinet. I also became very involved in clubs and community service or initiatives at my high school to make a more inclusive culture in my high school. These actions, these small shifts that I was practicing were building confidence in me to be able to deal with uncertainty. And then, of course, we moved to Houston, Texas. And this is where I began as a first generation Latina, I began my career in software engineering. I had no idea, I never touched a computer prior to picking computer science as my major. And so joining the workforce in tech, in the oil industry, where the majority are men, and I was the few young women, first one, the only in the department female. That was a new thing for me. Again, another known. I had to figure out how am I expected to show up here? How am I expected to perform? How can I be successful? But I knew I had done things before that looked different. And I had learned before how to do it. So I could use that micro transition to help me be successful here. I was promoted and became a project manager and led different products and services. And then there was another opportunity that led me to Silicon Valley. That was, again, a very different culture. The main thing that I want to highlight here is our brain remembers patterns. And we could ease them when we start getting very nervous, when we start getting very down on ourselves, lack of confidence. We need to take a breather, breathe, and remind yourself you've seen something similar before. And that calms your nervous system down and allows you to think more clearly. So let me start with the first tool. I said we're going to cover 5 tools in this backpack. The first tool is the compass. Your values, your core values are your compass. They are your anchor when things get rough. Lots of chaos, whether in your thought of fears or everyone else, clouds of their own fears beginning to affect you. Picture a boat out in rugged waters. Without an anchor, it sways. It could almost tilt over. But as soon as you put the anchor, the boat becomes steady. That is your core values. It allows you to lead more steady when everything sounds so confusing. The next tool is navigation. What I found from my experience over and over in helping other clients is one of the difficulties in navigating change is figuring out all these emotions that are coming up, whether it's doubts, fear of the unknown, all of that. What is not about suppressing those fears is about actually naming them. Where is this fear coming from? All right, so this is new, but we've been through some newness before, maybe not exactly the same, but we've been through new before. And as soon as you start having those conversations, internal conversation, you're reminding your brain about those patterns. We've been here before. Maybe not the same size, but we've been here before. And then also, like I said, recognizing patterns. And then as you start taking small steps, you start realizing, the world is not going to major fail. I take the step. I notice a change. I can adjust it. And then you can take another step. Now you're building more confidence, but also you're nurturing hope. Hope in the future. Hope that you can be successful. That hope goes a long ways as you're taking intentional baby steps to rebuild yourself. Resilience. Now, a lot of times here in the United States, we seem to talk about resilience as if it's the thing that we have to work hard. Just keep grinding it. That's how we're resilient. You fall, you get back up. I'm talking about a different kind of resilience. I'm talking about us really acknowledging what I call that we have this internal garden inside that we need to nurture to be able to fuel the sustainable energy to allow us to show up for ourselves and for others. But if we're not fueling ourselves with that sustainable energy, we can't burn out. And for women, when we're trying to show so many different roles at home, at work, and it's a lot. It drains us. So resilience is what I'm referring to here is where we think about courage pebbles. And I think about this as we collect when we go out, we collect little things to remember. Well, one of the things we need to remember are the accomplishments we've done, no matter how minor. Our brains will tell us, oh, that was no big deal. Anybody could have done that. No, not everybody. You did it. So think about those accomplishments. Also the impact, no matter how minor, the impact you had on the person, the impact you had on your team, on the organization. Don't minimize it. Record it. Remember it. Document it. Because when you're feeling low, looking at these courage pebbles are a way to build yourself up. Thought filters, we have to learn to filter through thoughts and be able to reframe it, reframe the story. It's a very important exercise to go through internally, but it gives you so much strength and clarity. Gratitude lenses. Gratitude lenses has been like a savior to me. It's really acknowledging you may be missing a lot, you may be lacking a lot, but being able to sit back and acknowledge those small little wins, those small moments when someone, a stranger, was kind, or someone shared their insight, someone took time to listen to you. Acknowledging that and being grateful giving us a lighter feeling, and it starts clearing our thought up from lack. So we move from a scarcity mindset to an abundant mindset. Scarcity mindset starts seeing walls all over. An abundant mindset starts seeing opportunities around us, people who can support us. The fourth tool is relationship ropes. And this is very important because a lot of times we think about the word networking, and I don't want to use that because what I'm talking about is true relationship ropes where you can feel comfortable asking for help in a confident way, not because you feel like you lack or you should know this. You know you're a bright individual, that you've done a lot. You collected your courage pebbles that tell you you've made impacts. But you don't have to know everything. You don't have to have the answers for everything. You could ask for help in a confident way. You could also offer help. It doesn't mean you become the one that everybody comes for help, but you could offer help. And that becomes a reciprocal relationship of trust. You know you can ask for help, and someone knows they can count on you to help. The other is about micro connections. This is part of a relationship rope that we're built. When we need it, we know we can count on a rope to hold us. The way that's built is every day we nurture those by taking time to actually thank someone for that listening ear, for that insight, for just taking a walk with you, checking in with someone. Hey, I remember the last time, checking in. How are you doing? Showing authentic curiosity in people's lives. That goes tremendous ways. So it's not just about the time you're looking for a job that you send a LinkedIn message to someone. Hey, it's about nurturing. And that becomes especially important when you're in this messy middle, trying to figure out when you're so confused. Building support communities during the messy middle is so important. Building community in what you think you're going to be in the future, in that new beginning, trying to get insights about what that could possibly be. So by the time you get there, you already have an idea. You feel more calm about that new future, that new beginning. The next tool, the fifth tool of our backpack, is reflection. And some folks, what they do here is they start thinking back, overanalyzing everything they do, everything they said, or how someone treated them, and you just exert so much energy at that moment. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about looking at the past and seeing, what wisdom can I gain from what happened in the past? What little things do I need to shift a little bit in my behavior and how I show up or how I connect with others in this messy middle, in this particular new project or new company, whatever that is wisdom. Not spending time just ruminating about the past. That's wasted energy. So it's about carrying that wisdom, extracting the lessons to wherever you go. We all have that. We just have to package that wisdom to allow us to breathe and feel like we can move forward with confidence and more clarity, not having all the answers. So those are the 5 tools. And those 5 tools require that for you to use them, not use one and not the other. It's important. They form what I call your one interconnected system that allows you to build steady leadership. And I really have proven this over and over in my transitions from a personal level and professionally that have enabled me to show up more confidently as I navigate. So now let me share with you some workplace applications of these tools. One of them is acquisitions. So my career has consisted of multiple layoffs as a result of acquisitions and reorgs. And acquisitions really can really suck a lot of energy. From the moment they announce an acquisition to the moment that it's closed, the deal is closed, it could be about 18 months of this unknown. And that's what it felt like in some of the last ones that I experienced. People didn't know whether they were going to get a layoff or they were going to get a letter with a full-time job for undetermined amount of days or with a termination date or not. People were so confused. They didn't know what they needed to focus on that moment in time. They didn't know who to go to for answers because executives, they were dealing with their own lack of knowledge of what was going to happen to them as well. And that is where my interconnected leadership system became my lifeline. I had gone through so many other changes from a career perspective and personal perspective that somehow during this time, I felt a little bit more clear. I didn't have the answers, of course, but I felt a little bit more clear about my core values at that moment, which for me was community. Community, that meant to me, I wanted to be there for other people because somehow I felt I had a little bit more clarity. And I could create spaces where my coworkers could show up and we could talk about the confusion, or I could encourage them to take baby steps to help them gain some clarity about their next step, even if they didn't have the answer about within work. I also knew I needed to nurture for myself as well. So I took time to meet with executives from different parts of the organization, my own and across, even ones that I didn't know about, to introduce myself, to make sure they knew I could help. I could help the company go through this transition. I had the experience. And I also wrote recommendations letters for my coworkers to support each other. I would not have been able to do that if I didn't have this interconnected leadership system that allowed me to be grounded in my values, to be able to have that clarity of supporting myself, but also supporting my coworkers. The next workplace application of these tools is asking for the promotion. So asking for a promotion, it really tests our self-belief in our value proposition, in our value story. Asking for a promotion also tests our capability of being able to lead through current change into tomorrow's opportunities. And I knew very well from my backpack tools, I knew one of my core values is respect for others, which meant I showed up at work performing at my highest caliber, authentically. But I also had respect for self. I wasn't going to minimize myself. I knew my impact. My Courage Pebbles told me on my impact. I had collected the documents that I knew not impacted my own organization, but impact across other organizations and how I had impacted the bottom line around revenue. I knew it clearly. So I wasn't going to wait for someone to tell me I was ready for a promotion. I was going to confidently request the promotion, and I had the data. And I got the promotion. But it took me really working on relationship ropes, having advocates, sponsors who could speak for me in rooms that I was not. It wasn't something like overnight, but I was able to get that promotion. And then here is my third workplace, is when I decided to leave corporate and become an entrepreneur. Now, making that step felt like really jumping without a net. But then I had to remind myself, it was fearful. How can I do this? But one of the most important things at that time was where I am in my life today. One of my priorities was to fuel my sustainable energy and recognize that I wanted to help people differently. And I wanted to do it outside of corporate. I wanted to have the freedom to be creative and figure that out. I didn't know exactly what I'd be doing, or did I have the answers, but I had a vision. And I knew I had worked in companies before where I created products without no one laying out a big roadmap for me. I created teams and organizations that we were new. So I'd been there before. Never an entrepreneur, but I have done things before where it wasn't spelled out for me. So I knew I could figure this out. And so again, that resilience for me is that, okay, I've done some things before and I need to nurture what's most important, myself. And once I know how sound I am, how grounded I am, I can show up from others. So coaching was the thing I wanted to do. I had always been coaching others, but I wanted to do it full time. Given all the changes that are happening today, I wanted to be able to help people go through transitions, navigate transitions as a coach. And of course, I knew I couldn't do it alone. So I have created communities that support me while I'm going through this myself. I don't have all the answers. I'm enjoying figuring it out. I'm finding joy in the unknown. I trust that I can go through uncertainties. So the key question for you is, given the amount of changes taking place today, we can feel like we're constantly fighting, putting out fires, and we don't have time to think about the future. We have to just fix the now. And sometimes we feel we're the only ones who can do it because no one else gets it. So that's fragmented leadership. Or you could actually start reusing this interconnected leadership system that allows you to get really connected internally using those tools. And once you do, you can feel so grounded that you almost feel like you're a conductor of an orchestra, just making everything harmoniously work because you have a mastery of the overall ecosystem because now you're very clearly grounded. So coaching, where does the coaching fit in? You have this, we all need a safe space to be able to catch ourselves where our blind spots, our biases, our areas of confusion and fear, and become more connected with that. And coaching allows you not just working out through layoffs or promotions or the next role, but also on a personal level, wherever else we're trying to deal with at home as well. And so coaching is a great service for individuals to be able to have transformation and be able to show up better, whether at work or at home. So I wanted to go through this as best I could to give you time to ask questions. And then I could go into a little deeper in some areas that I wanted to just cover the key things and then answer specific questions that you have in your mind. Are there any questions?